Hello, welcome to the Dayton Unit NAACP Candidates Forum. Tonight we're going to hear from candidates for the office of Dayton City Commission, candidates for the office of Mayor in Trotwood, City Council in Trotwood, and from Jefferson Township Fiscal Officers. The individuals that's going to lead, us in this conversation is none other than our chair of our political action committee, former State Senator Tom Roberts. And next Wednesday, because some people has already called asking about school board candidates. Next Wednesday, inside of this auditorium, that's October the 4th, you will have an opportunity to hear from the school board candidates in those same municipalities, from Dayton, from Jefferson, and from Trotwood. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to our chairman of our political action committee, Tom Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. President. We're only going to have one mic tonight, so we got to be very strategic and keep it away from the speakers. Want to thank the sororities, deltas, AKAs, and Mega Psi Phi. That's what happens when you start naming off stuff. And the Masonic, the Shriners, for helping us. Will you raise your hands? These are the folks who are going to take your slips if you have questions. Raise your hands. Okay? So if you have questions, raise your hand and they'll give you a slip. That doesn't mean we're going to ask your question. Your question will guide me and them in the question we want to ask. So if we don't ask your question specifically, don't get upset. I'm looking at your questions as ideas to ask the candidates. Thank you. The candidates will have generally 2 minutes on each question. You'll have 1 minute, 30 seconds, and when the bell rings, you are to stop. Okay? That doesn't mean one of the Disney characters. That means stop. We want you to be respectful of each other. Don't call a person by their name. Either say the challenger or the incumbent. We don't want, because that's protocol is improper, all right? You can say what you want to talk about, but don't call out a specific name. If you do, then I'll have to pull the mic away from you, all right? Let's have a good debate and a good discussion. And let's start in the middle, and we'll go left and right, and then come back to the candidates back there. The first question is, if you are an incumbent, why you should be reelected? If you are a challenger, why should you replace the incumbent? You got it? 2 minutes. If you're an incumbent, why should you maintain your seat? If you are a challenger, why should you unseat the incumbent? Let's go here then. That way, the next way, okay?
Well, good evening. Oh, sorry. My name is Marcus Bettinger. I'm a candidate, as you know, for Dayton City Commission. And I am a challenger. I am not currently an office holder. I have, in fact, never run for office. But one of the reasons I am running for office is because I was born and raised in Dayton. I grew up, I'm honored to sit next to the mayor of Trotwood. I grew up in Trotwood, technically in Townview. But growing up in, the greater Dayton area, very, very close to West Dayton, I got to see what Dayton was like as a kid. And I did move away. In 2016, I moved to New York. I lived there for a little while and worked for a member of Congress, the United States Congress and Constituent Services. Moved home during the pandemic because I was paying a lot of money to be stuck at home in quarantine. So came home to Dayton. And then when quarantine was lifted, I saw a tale of two cities. Downtown, where you can go and find a lot to do. There have been $1 billion or more of investment. Where I live in the Roosevelt neighborhood, not a fraction. The house next door to me is abandoned. It has been abandoned for as long as some people have been in city leadership. And so I asked myself, as someone who has knocked doors and volunteered for candidates, hosted fundraisers, what can I do with those skills for my community in Dayton? And so that's why I feel like I deserve a vote for Dayton City Commission. We have to change the conversation about what has taken place in Dayton for decades. Decades of decay, decades of really what is corruption, because there's no excuse for $1.5 billion investment downtown, rolling out the red carpet for new people, when people who have been in Dayton for decades watch their neighborhoods crumble. And so we have to ask the tough questions. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Valerie Duncan, and thank you for the NAACP for giving us our candidates here in Dayton and Trotwood an opportunity to speak before you. Now, my roots is from a blue-collar town, blue-collar family, I'm sorry. My father was worked for Hobart and did scales, weighing scales over there on Huffman Avenue. I started going to school in Belmont, and I graduated at Wilbur Wright High School. Now, I've always had a passion since high school to know about government. And I had an opportunity when I went to Wright State to do an internship. And in those 6 months, I learned a lot about the city structure, the city budget. I was interested in all those things. How a city operates, how does it function, who does what. And in my 31 years that I worked for the city of Dayton, I continued my passion and wanted to know, again, who is doing what, who's responsible for what, and how is it impacting our neighborhoods and small businesses. And I had an opportunity, the city manager called me, said, I have $500,000, I have to use it by a certain date, can you help me? And I was able to go and contact all the neighborhoods and put together a project and run it through the bureaucracy and got all of those projects funded. So I hope that you take in consideration when you go to the polls that you choose a person that can actually work for you and not for the majority of power, what is currently a monopoly of power, and you're not getting your just desserts.
Good evening, and thank you, NAACP, for allowing me to be here today and talk to you about the work that I've been doing in this community for now 8 years. I want to make that work continue to grow the economic development opportunities in Dayton, to make better connections to our workforce, providing opportunities for our young people and not so young people to get back into the workforce, to be trained, connected with apprenticeship programs and other types of opportunities that are just so important for our community. We've done some good work in the economic development space, and yeah, we've invested a significant amount of money in our downtown because we know that smart development starts in the urban core. And we're starting to see it move out into the outer rings already, with better housing opportunities, other types of business opportunities in up West 3rd Street and other parts of our community. I want to keep that work going. We've made some smart policy decisions over the years, and we're going to start seeing the fruits of that investment in the future. You know, it took us a long time to get into the situation that we're into, 40 years or so. And it's going to take a little while to get out of it. We're making the right investments in our community, in our neighborhoods, in our residents. And I want to be here to continue the work. So thank you very much for having me, and look forward to this great discussion.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Matt Joseph. I'm running for City Commission. I'm already a City Commissioner. And I would like to be reelected for a lot of the same reasons that Commissioner Shaw just mentioned. Things have started to turn around. After years and years of decline, a lot of which was out of our control. Federal government policies, redlining, all kinds of things that really hurt our people. Things have started to turn around the last few years. We were making smart investments. We brought back curbside leaf pickup. We invested millions of dollars in making sure that preschool kids have quality preschools to go to. We've made sure that we put money toward paving roads. We've demolished thousands of houses that couldn't be lived in, couldn't be fixed up, and we're going to demolish hundreds and hundreds more in the next few years. So we've made the wise investments, and I just want to be around to see the fruits of that. Things are coming back. You've seen it. You've seen more people move into the city. You've seen more businesses move into the city. We had a great announcement last week that 2,000 more jobs are coming. Manufacturing jobs, engineering jobs, jobs for all levels of education are coming into the city. That's the kind of thing that I'm very proud of. I'm proud to work with my colleagues on, and I'd like to stick around for a little while to make sure this is the best possible city for my kids and any future grandkids even. But thank you all. Thank you all for being here tonight. It means a lot to see you.
President Ford. Yes, and I just want to make certain that everyone knows that we have two candidates that we know that are not here, as they called us and said that they would not be available. One is dealing with a family matter, and the other is actually out of town on TDY at work. So those two individuals are in the city of Trotwood, Rhonda Finley and Robert Kelly. So those two individuals are not here with us this evening, and they did call and let us know that they would not be coming. So I want to make certain that we made that announcement before we go to Trotwood. Mayor?
Thank you. Thank you so much, NAACP, and thank you all for coming out tonight. My name is Mary McDonald, and I'm the proud mayor of the city of Trotwood, Ohio. And I can say proud today because at one time, not so proud. Lots of things were happening in our city that were not positive. There was a major decline, and we have now began to see, as a result of my work and my leadership, our city turned around. We've had investment in our housing, in our economic development. We've had businesses located in the city of Trotwood that in the past never would have thought Trotwood to be their home. And they're here now. And we're happy because of that. So I'm excited to continue the work that I'm doing. I'm asking for your support and your vote because it matters. Experience matters, knowledge matters, being able to speak up for your community, reach across party lines and work with people to get things to happen to your community. That's what I've been able to do in the city of Trotwood. And that is what has positioned us to be a community of choice and a community where people can love, work, and grow in the community. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Denise Moore, and I am a challenger for the Trotwood City Council at large. I am running because, first and foremost, I am no stranger to Trotwood. I have lived in Trotwood for over 49 years. I have raised my children in Trotwood. We have purchased farms and homes in Trotwood as a family. And one thing I understand is experience matters. And I say that because as an elected official serving on the Trotwood Madison City School Board for the last 18 years, I understand the unique needs of our city as well as our schools and how important it is to bridge that. I also understand that there is no room for personalities, politics, or just personalities, politics, or people when you are looking at collaboration. When we are collaborating, we're talking about being a unified body. That's how you get the work done. It is important that we come together for the rebirth and revitalization of Trotwood. I had an opportunity to buy a home outside of Trotwood. I chose to stay in Trotwood. I bought that house 2 years ago. And you know what I realized? Trotwood is my home. This is my community. I love my home, I love my community, but most of all, I love our citizens. And it's important that citizens are heard. Citizens need to be heard. We work for you. We work for you. And I think it's important that citizens understand that. So, again, I ask for your support. I think that first and foremost, experience matters, leadership matters, and it's important to work together, to build together, to grow together, and expand together. Thank you.
can't plug the mic in. I might want to reconsider. Good evening, everybody. My name is Norman Scarce. I am a challenger for Trotwood City Council. I am the husband of one wife, the father of 3 children. I pastor the Gateway Cathedral in Trotwood, Ohio. I also am a small business owner. I own Precision Painting. We provide interior, exterior, and residential and commercial painting services. I'm running for Trotwood City Council because I believe that Trotwood is in what I would like to consider a renaissance. And the people in charge of making decisions for making sure that renaissance continues to flourish need to be individuals that understand that working together is absolutely essential. You cannot put yourself in silos and expect to get the necessary work done. We need people in our city government that understand what it means to do the hard work. I served 4 years as a Trotwood Madison board member from 2017 to 2021, along with Ms. Moore, and I understand the relationship that is going to be needed between the school district and the city government if we're going to continue to prosper. So I ask for your support and your vote in November, and let's continue this renaissance in Trotwood. Thank you very much.
And I've just been informed by one of my office staff members that Yvette Page called into our office and said that she would not be able to attend this evening.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Charlene Chathams. I'm from Jefferson Township, and I'm a challenger for the fiscal officer's position. I've lived in Jefferson Township for most of my life. I graduated from Jefferson, and it's always been a great community, so I thought it was time for me to step up and do something for our community to get more financial money back out in our community and build some new things so our kids have something to do out in the township and not get in so much trouble. So if we can get more people to move out there and pay their taxes, we can do better for the kids. I retired from the post office, so I have worked with finances. I had to do a budget, and it usually takes me about 3 to 6 months to catch on, and then I usually find something to save or turn something around to keep more money in the community so we can build more things. Thank you, and thank you for NAACP having this platform.
Good evening. I'm Tracy Edwards. I'm the current fiscal officer of Jefferson Township. I've been the fiscal officer for over 10 years now, and I lived in Jefferson Township almost my entire lifetime. I'm retired from the United States Air Force Base, White Patterson Air Force Base. I've lived there, I worked there for 38 years, federal government. I found that there was a lot of challenges in Jefferson Township. I'm a real active member in the community. I've always been a real active member in the community. I was on the school board, and then I was asked to be a fiscal officer, and I took on the challenge, and there was a lot of work to do, and still a lot of work we need to do. We started getting new people in the township to make things, administration and staff, make things start looking better in the township. Everybody will see Jefferson Township is going to be up and coming because of all the work we've done. And again, I'd like to thank NAACP and League of Women Voters for allowing us to come in and talk.
The question is directed to the mayor of Trotwood, but I'm going to put it to everybody on the panel because I think it's relevant to all of you, and it goes to the issue of the mall. Would you be able to speak to the development with the old Salem Mall area? So with all the candidates, and also the city of Dayton. I'm sure there's some development going on in the city of Dayton. that you want to share with us. So let's start with the Trotwood candidates and then go to the city of Dayton. And so start up here on the end.
Just so I understand the question, you want me to respond to the development that's happening regarding the site where the Salem Mall once was?
Or any development at all. Specifically that site was asked.
Okay, I had the pleasure of serving, I am not an incumbent, so some of that information in terms of development I'm not privy to, so I'm not going to be able to answer some of those to a certain degree. But I did have the opportunity to serve on the Trotwood CIC, which is the economic development arm for the city. And I do realize that as much as we want to remember that site being the Salem Mall, I also think it is as crucially important that we accept and acknowledge that it is not the Salem Mall anymore. And with the current climate of even how we shop locally, the idea of malls is just eradicated at this point. And so I think some of the development around that particular site is making sure that we make necessary investment into the lives of citizens beyond living and working, providing some sense of recreation that I think is much needed in our city. And I think any development around that site is going to be focused to some degree, and I'm making somewhat of an assumption because I don't have, the inside information that the incumbents would have. So some of the development around that would be participating in what I think our city needs in terms of things along the lines of enrichment. I think it was absolutely essential and important, though, to make sure that our city could support things like that. And I think, and I can say this, I think the mayor has done a phenomenal job in making sure that the median income of our city rises to the point to where we can support those types of things that we want to see in our city. So I hope that answers the question to some degree. Thank you very much.
I too serve on the Trotwood Community Improvement Corp as a board member now, and what I can see is Trotwood growing and expanding like it's just blooming, unbelievable. We have gotten to a point where if anybody has ever driven down Main Street in Trotwood, it looks like an entirely different city. When you think of the courthouse, when you think of the library, when you think of the housing development, and when I think of the mall, I grew up going to the mall. So the mall, the big box stores are no more. It is time for us to look ahead into the future and look at what we can do with that space. It is also time for us to engage our citizens in what we do with that space. We want to make sure in Trotwood that we are a friendly town, family-oriented. So being so, that space would be open to creative ideas along the lines of what we can do to bring families and communities together. Most of all, partnerships and relationships. When I think of the Salem Mall, I think what is needed in order to develop and to continue to grow and expand is partnerships and relationships. We need stakeholders that believe in Trotwood like we believe in Trotwood. Thank you.
Thank you. In 2005, the city of Trotwood purchased the Salem Mall from the owner who had let it go into major decline. I'm sure many of you that have been in that area recognize what it looked like from its heyday to what it ended up being. When they purchased it in 2005, there was very little interest in anyone coming out there and investing in anything. Currently, we're looking at developing the Sears building for the Funk Museum, as well as an entrepreneurial center. We have many other opportunities that we plan on using that building for. But the fact that the city owns it gives us the opportunity to be the stakeholders and to make sure that there's the right kind of development that happens in that site. As was mentioned before, malls and things like that are a passing. The city of Trotwood was the very first mall in Montgomery County 57 years ago. Then was the Dayton Mall, then was the Green, and all the other places that have come about. Things have changed. But we have all kinds of development. Moss Creek, we are building new homes there. We have the golf course that's now open again, so all of you golfers can go there. Wolf Run Estates is completely built out. All of these are new homes, and all of this development has happened in this last 8 years. And it has happened as a result of proper leadership and business people who know how to bring other investors and business people to the table. And that's what I do, and I have. Thank you.
Thank you. So I do not live in Trotwood. I'm not running for it.
This question would be for the city of Dayton.
No, I was just making mention that I grew up in Trotwood, so I remember the Salem Mall well. I remember how families used to visit the Salem Mall. You could eat something there, you could see a movie, you could go shopping. There was plenty to do. So the way we shop and entertain might have changed, but we still want those things in our community. And so as someone who lives on the west side of Dayton, I would let the incumbents speak to, all the great things they're doing. But as someone who has experienced, some of the Trotwood candidates haven't mentioned experience. As someone who has experienced being homeless, Dayton needs affordable housing. That's some development I would like to see on the west side and all across our city, because our homeless shelters are at capacity, literally busting open. Experience matters. So as someone who has experienced having nowhere to shop in Dayton, I would like to see stuff on the west side for people to do, places to eat, places to shop, places to have fun. And so they'll tell you that, Dayton has been developed incredibly over the past 20 or 8 years, but it has not. There are still plenty of things we need to see in our communities, because the way we shop and things might have changed, but we still want those things in our community. And so I would like to see affordable housing. I would like to see entertainment and restaurants on the west side of the city, and not just a grocery store that has to do 7 things, because, we haven't had a grocery store for 20 years, and we haven't had a health center or a hospital just got closed. And so, let's be a little more thoughtful and visionary about development and talk about who it's actually for.
Logistics. Well, thank you for that question. It's a very interesting question. Yes, the malls are outdated. Fairfield Commons Mall, Dayton Mall are in bankruptcy. Now they've been refinancing their debt. Okay, so we know that's something that has come and gone, and it's reached its heyday, and now it's no longer, okay? Now, the thing is that's good that it's been designated a national landmark or something like that. Okay, now as far as the city of Dayton goes, we have various developments downtown. We have the Chamber of Commerce, the Dayton Coalition, Dayton Development Coalition, Citywide Development, the City Manager's Office, and various agencies that are assisting the downtown development. Now what we need is now development in our neighborhoods. We have $138 million that has come into the city for recovery money, and we need for the neighborhoods to acquire those dollars. Right now they're not getting 1 red cent in development monies that they can actually make an application for. This should change, and as your city commissioner, I will ensure that the $138 million recovery money comes back to you.
Hello? Yeah. All right, I neglected to say earlier that I am Chris Shaw and I am the current Dayton City Commissioner. I also understand a lot about this topic. You know, we all want retail in our communities. Big box retail is probably a thing of the past. It's going, you know, the way of the internet and other kinds of opportunities. And that's not all bad. You know, as Economic Development Chair for this organization for a number of terms, and also Economic Development Chair for the Greater Dayton Chamber of Commerce, I know how to grow a city, and we have been going about the business of doing that work with best practices. We have, in order to support retail in our community, we activated the first floor business activation fund, where we supported small businesses to use the spaces in some of those big buildings that are downtown and in other places, activating the first floor and providing opportunities for small business owners like myself to provide retail opportunities for the community. So we're going about the business of doing that work. COVID hit, a lot of that kind of waned a little bit, but there's still opportunities there. We created, you know, the hub, the Entrepreneurs Hub at the Arcade. And that's not just for downtown. We are intentional about connecting that to other parts of our community. In fact, I'm on the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee for the National League of Cities, where we talk about and deliver different kinds of ways to fund economic development, one of which is a connection program, $1.5 million in this community to support and to connect what we're doing in the arcade and the entrepreneurial space with West Dayton and with East Dayton and tentacles all out into the community. Now, is it perfect? No. But it's something that we're working toward. We're going to continue to do that work. Talked about housing. I'm looking at several. Germantown Crossing Project, $15 million. DeSoto Bass redevelopment. Wolf Creek Housing, 28 affordable housing units. National Church Residence, 180. Grand Place Apartments, not far from here, 64 units. We're intentional about growing the city in the smart, appropriate way. Thank you.
I would just add to Commissioner Shaw's point that I hope that you all have been able to see the results of some of that first floor activation. For so long, when you'd walk around wherever in the city, not just downtown, there'd be buildings with just blank windows on the first floor, covered up or papered over. Our goal is to actually have those open and make them stores again, retail or whatever. Just not only is it good to have businesses in the community, it also makes the city look more lived in. And I can tell you, the place where my wife goes to get her hair done, there are 2 or 3 shops that have popped up next door just in the last couple of months. And it's just been a happy surprise, you know. It's something that it's handy for people to stop at, and hopefully somebody's making a good living and hiring people. So that first floor activation has been pretty effective, and I think I really have hopes for it. The other part of redevelopment that I want to talk about is our, Commissioner Shaw talked about a number of new apartments and new places and new renovations. I want to talk about houses. We are cleaning up neighborhoods. We are putting over $1 million to vacant house renovation and other renovations in neighborhoods where people live. There's so many neighborhoods where there are just a couple of houses that are really bad, and if we could take care of those, if they're demolishable, we'll demolish them. If they're able to be fixed up, let's fix them up, and the whole neighborhood benefits. Everyone does. You all know, we here as commissioners, we hear about that a lot, almost every neighborhood meeting we go to, and we're really aiming at that problem with real funding. Both our own general fund money and the federal ARPA dollars that we're using for the Dayton recovery. So we really are focused on redevelopment at all different levels, both commercial and residential, housing, and covering the whole city. So thank you.
Thank you very much. We move this court, we go back this way. I assume the role of the fiscal officer of a township is to keep the books and the records of the township straight. The question has to do with regularly reporting the physical condition of the township. The writer says they're not getting that on a regular basis. Can both of you speak to the role of the fiscal officer and whether you think they need to, and if they haven't, why haven't they produced on a regular township trustee meeting the fiscal activity, okay?
Okay, I'm the challenger, Charlene Chathams, and I have to say say, I haven't been to a lot of meetings lately. I take care of my 95-year-old fathers, and some days I can't make it out there. But if I get to be the fiscal officer, I will be out there, and I will make sure there is a report out every month, like I had to do at the post office, to show what comes in, what goes out, where we get money from, and ways to make more money. Because that is necessary for the community to know how their money is being used and ways to maybe skim some fat off so we can do more things for the community, maybe have a community center or something for the kids to do with some money we can save. But if we don't have a report, we don't know how to make suggestions to the fiscal officer to tell what we want done in our township. So I agree, I would try to do my best every month to have that report listed so everyone can understand the monies receivable and the monies spent. Thank you.
As a fiscal officer currently, I know this is addressed specifically since I've been fiscal officer for the last 10 years. Then a fiscal officer job is almost running the whole township. You gotta do payroll, you gotta do HR, you gotta keep all the records, you gotta pay the bills, you gotta do the budget, you gotta do the audit that comes in every 2 years. You cannot take the time to do a report every meeting. Once a month maybe, they're not even so once a month. You got so much to do. You have to work with the trustees in order for them to get help for you. You need help. They don't have, right now we don't have any help. We haven't had, we just recently in the last year got new staff members in that can at least try to help. But as a fiscal officer and doing all those tasks, you cannot, you don't have time to train somebody. You have to have somebody in who has some experience. So basically getting a report out every meeting, which is every twice a month, is not possible.
Thank you. Let me ask all of the city candidates, a lot of concern about young people and what we're doing to help young people. And we know that a lot of teenage suicide is up. The question goes to your vision, youth and young people having a community development, and how would you support that coming to fruition? So what role do you vision youth and young people having in community development? And how would you support coming to that fruition? Okay, let's start on the end. Maybe if you keep the mic cord behind us, maybe flow. Let's try it again. I apologize, but you only have a couple of mics. I don't know what the problem is now.
Thank you very much. And again, I want to restate the question just to be certain that I understand its context. How would I make the necessary investments in community development for youth development?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, first off, I don't think that's something that the city can do alone. And I think that we've seen what happens when cities and municipalities try to attempt those types of investments without stakeholders. As the pastor of a church in Trotwood, I know firsthand what it means to have a partner help provide the necessary youth developments or youth enrichments that are necessary to not just keep kids out of trouble, but give them what they need most, and that is exposure to the things that they may get in other communities. Serving in my capacity, even as a school board member, we understood that you have to have stakeholder support in order to make the necessary investments, because the truth is, it doesn't matter how much money you throw into any type of youth development, if you don't have the partnerships there to help support it, it's not going to be long lasting. So what I would do, or what I would envision as Trotwood's next city council person, is to help develop and foster those relationships between the school district, between churches, between businesses, and stop being so afraid of partnerships that we've tended to shy away from. in the past. A lot of times we say, well, the church and state have no business being together, but the truth of the matter is, if it wasn't for the church, there'd be no state. And so in order for us to make those necessary investments, we have to be able to partner with all stakeholders involved. Thank you very much.
As a school board member, has been our primary duty to make sure that we can support our youth in our community. And one way that investment can happen is through mentorship. We have amazing schools all around us. We even have local municipalities that we can partner with, their school districts, to see what they're doing and how they're doing it. It's important to have the relationships, not just within our city, but expand ourselves outside of the city to give our students and our youth those experiences and those opportunities. We look at internships. We also need to look at a youth advisory committee. And for me, as a councilwoman, I would look at advisory committees for each individual group of students or youth ages, and also make sure that the parents are a part of that, because it takes a village. And what we're trying to do when we talk about young people, the council can't do it alone. The mayor can't do it alone. It takes all of us. Partnerships, relationships, mentorships, faith community, reaching out to our seniors who want to be a part of our young people's lives, and together we're better. Thank you.
What you've already heard from the two candidates is what is going on in our community right now. The faith community has stood strong with me through these last 8 years. We've been able to build the city of Trotwood up, number one, because of our belief in ourselves and our belief in our God, but also because they are willing to shoulder some of the responsibility that government should not have to take on. We've worked at building relationships up with families. We've worked with bringing young people to the community to do various other opportunities, volunteer opportunities. YLAG has been in our community, many others, over a period of time, and it has made such a difference. But for the city of Trotwood, what we actually need are our citizens to step up and take some responsibility for helping with the children. They are their responsibility as well as ours, but the work has to be shared. There's so many needs in the community that we have. The concentration in that area, we do believe that parents can help us to do. But I will say, especially Norman Scarce at his church, he has had his doors open any and every time there has ever been an opportunity for young people to have something to do. And he has taken on, young people have broken into his church, they have done 1,000 things, but he has continued to be committed to helping those young people. This is what it's going to take. It's tough to do this work, but it's work that we can all do, and we can do it together.
Yeah, I will just reiterate what has already been said. I have 2 young kids who just entered Dayton Public Schools. One's preschool, one is kindergarten. And what I see already as those kids enter school is the despair that their parents face in this community. Some of these kids are entering school with clothes that don't fit, they're hungry, they are barely clean. And to Mayor McDonald's point, that's home responsibility, but there's also despair that is affecting the psyche of this city. When we lack jobs, high-paying jobs, when we lack a hospital on our side of town, when we lack those kinds of things, it piles, it compounds the issues that we face. So it's no wonder that our kids are facing, just real destruction from every side. And then we put them in school and expect them to learn. We cannot. And so yes, we do have to start at home. There's not a city policy, there's not a community resource that will raise a child. So we do need to get back to parenting. But we also have to understand that these issues are stemming, they're symptoms of larger problems. There's economic despair in our city, and it is leaking right down to the youngest of our children in these schools. I see it already walking my child to kindergarten. And so we have to, really ask ourselves, it's not about the educational system. It is about our community. It is about our community psyche, our mentality. And yes, you know, my mom was a church secretary right in Mount Moriah on Maya Avenue. I grew up doing a lot of things at the church. We need to get back to that as well. I agree with that too, so thank you.
This is a real interesting question. Economic development has a lot of bearing on youth development. A young person living in a neighborhood where there's dilapidated houses, there are boarded up houses, there's burnt down houses, there's piles of debris houses with rats and trash. Everywhere I've gone, I've seen this dilapidation. So that is affecting what families are moving into Dayton. There's thousands and thousands and thousands of homes, over 10,000 homes that are dilapidated and boarded up. They've been boarded up for 10 to 20 years. Currently, we do not have programs to fix up these houses. We have for seniors, have that for humanity and our neighbor grant, but not for the overall public, the residents of the city of Dayton. Now, it's going to take more than an apprenticeship through high school to qualify for the jobs that are out there at the airport. What they're constructing hangars, and they're bringing in these large cargo planes. You have to have engineering, you have to have aerospace engineering, you have to have sophisticated software development. So we have to step up our game if we want our young people to move ahead. Thank you.
Thank you for that question. I really appreciate that because it is so timely. You know, oftentimes you'll hear our mayor, Jeff Mem, say that young people are 20% of our population, but 100% of our future, and I really believe that. And that's why I did. I traveled to Washington, D.C. with the leadership of the AFL-CIO and the building trades to bring back funding to stand up an apprenticeship program that really will give access to so many of our youth, not so young people also, but many of our youth, and to get them exposure into the building trades and get the skills necessary to move into some of these high-paying jobs as we build out the hangars and we build out Intel and all of these other great opportunities that are coming to Dayton. We need workers to be able to go in there and take advantage of these jobs. And if we don't have them, we will not be able to continue the development work that we've been so invested in and doing for these past several years. Air Camp. Many of you may have heard of Air Camp. It's a great program for folks, for young people that get exposed to, really, it's an immersion into the great opportunities in aviation. And that's really important for the folks in Dayton, Ohio, the birthplace of aviation. So I stood up a mini Air Camp because oftentimes a lot of our kids were not getting connected to Air Camp, where they learn everything about aviation. And at the end of the session, they actually learn how to fly and get some flight hours. So I was intentional about digging down into Dayton public schools and bringing them into the Air Camp pipeline. They come out and spend a day at the airport and learn about all the high-tech opportunities and low-tech opportunities at our airport. That's never been done before, and I'm really, really excited about that work. We just had the Mayor's Youth Summit, and yes, mental health was the most attended session in that youth summit. So we have to be intentional about supporting our youth in mental health, but that's a state issue. And all we can really do in that space is to lobby and to press the state government and our state partners to provide much more opportunity that we so desperately need in the city in terms of mental health. But thanks for that great question, and I really look forward to hearing other answers.
It is a great question, and it's very timely because we see every day the effects of plans going wrong, of families going wrong, of schooling going wrong. And everybody, all of us here and all of our institutions, all of our individuals are working hard to try to fill in those gaps and to figure out what to do next. It's been said quite a few times, and it's true that the most important thing we can do as city officials is to partner with the folks who have primary responsibility. So partnership with the school board is an important partnership with you all. One example of that we did, and we have done for a number of years, is because the voters of the city of Dayton approved issue 9, we've been able to invest in preschoolers to make sure that before even they start kindergarten, the kids are able to read. They're doing better. They're exposed to some of the things that they weren't exposed to before. We're making sure that those preschools that are available they look better. The teachers out of there are better trained, and just to give kids a better start. And we're working with older kids too. I know that we've been deeply involved with President Obama's Men of Color initiative. Commissioner Shaw, the mayor, and myself, a number of folks have been deeply involved with that, just trying to bring the boys in, bring them, give them mentorship, give them experiences they wouldn't otherwise talk about. Mayor mentioned WILAG a moment ago. It's another excellent group. So I think working in partnership with the schools, working in partnership with churches, and then taking care of our own house, which in our case is recreation. We have Greater Dayton Rec Center over on this side of town. It's the best facility we have. We're looking at a facility north now along the fields there, the football field that's there along Kiwi, just where it becomes Dixie. And we're looking at even another sports facility there to accommodate our kids. So we're looking for every effort we can, every opportunity we have to partner with folks to make a difference here, because it is really important.
Thank you. As we go to our next series of questions, we're going to ask that you succinctly condense your responses to 1 minute. Yes. So this question is first going to go to our Dayton City Commission candidates. How do you plan to prepare the Dayton area workforce for the new high-tech jobs that are coming into this area? Timekeepers, are you ready?
This is a great question, although I will say it's a better question for my colleague, Commissioner Shaw, because that is his absolute focus of this job. But I will say that we have to start early, right? We have to start with the investment we just mentioned, with kids as young as possible, making sure that there are books available, making sure they're read to, making sure they have good quality education at the youngest age possible. And then it's about connections. It's about making sure that there are internships available, making sure that people have mentors who are in fields like one of the challengers mentioned the new Sierra Nevada hangars that are going up at the airport. More hangars are going up, and so we need engineers. We need people who can do program management. We also need people who can run a machine tool and turn out parts. So I think exposure to those sorts of careers early is great, and I think it's vital, and I think we have a role to play at the city in doing that.
Okay. Yes, thank you. Thank you for that great question. We talked a little bit about that already, the work that I and that we have been doing in that space, but it can't be said enough. It starts with preschool promise, and thanks to you, the voters, issue 9, we have high quality preschool for our 3 and 4 year olds, and that's never happened. And we've been recognized nationally for that work. I mean, national recognition and bringing that kind of high quality education, and that's how you start to grow an economy, and you start to train up our residents. Well, I talked to you about Air Camp and the apprenticeship programs that we stood up. And this is not a small task. You know, for many years, a lot of our labor unions were not, let's say, reaching down into our community, and certainly we're not connecting with folks that look like me. It was kind of like an good old boy system, and you had to have a relative in the trades. That's not the case anymore. They're being very intentional about finding young people, especially young people of color, men and boys and girls, to introduce them to this great opportunity. Thank you.
Now, this next series of questions are specific to Trotwood. Litter is everywhere. Trotwood is a mess, I quote. What are you doing about it, and have you hired people? So, again, 1 minute succinctly. We're going to begin down with high-tech jobs coming to this area. So please charge that to my lack of experience, my colleague who's much more than He's trying to teach me,
Okay, thank you for that question. Okay, so we have to start with the basics, basic education. So the city commission has to work with the Board of Education. Now, one of my incumbents have had 20 years to have an opportunity, 20 years now, he's had been city commissioner. He's had 20 years to work with the Board of Education to up their game, right? Board of Education is down at City of Dayton. Our public schools are down at the bottom, right? So, first of all, we got to get them up and going again. And then we have to get our colleges and all our different unions involved to prepare our young people for these jobs of the future. And so we have to start with basic education and go forward. Thanks.
Thank you for the question. So, as everybody mentioned, you have to start with early education. Preschool Promise is a great program, but Dayton Public Schools in total have a problem. So starting children in schools that have issues earlier does not fix anything. The City Commission recently had a vote where they and the school board were not even on the same page. So to talk about collaborating with the school board and building, programming with the school board, and you don't need to collaborate with them before you vote to take away property tax funding for the school and, give it back in some other kind of check later on. That's not the way to operate. That's not real collaboration with the city government. So I would like to see real collaboration with the city commission and the school board, where they are all aware of what's going on and the plans for property taxes as they roll out the red carpet for multi-million-dollar development downtown. And then, they say, well, don't pay the property taxes up front. We'll figure out something later on to get to Dayton Public Schools. I don't think that's the way to build a strong educational program. And then we have a lot of great universities in Dayton. I would like to see programming that connects, the universities with the high-tech jobs.
Thank you. And now, Trotwood. Litter is everywhere. Trotwood is a mess. What are you going to do about it? And how have people been hired to address this issue?
Well, I'll say litter is not everywhere. It may be in certain areas, but litter is everyone's problem. Litter says something about the people, and it says something about where we live. When I see litter where I live, I pick it up. The city of Trotwood has hired additional staffing. That additional staffing has gone out and they've done their job in terms of cleaning it up, but it is a continuous challenge. So again, it is everyone's responsibility in the community, and when we stop seeing litter laying around, by all of us taking personal responsibility and helping to clean it up, that's how we can make the difference in the community. That is the work that all of us can do.
I believe that it starts in your neighborhood, one person at a time. Not only being responsible for your common area, but if you see anything on the street, pick it up. I have driven down the street and seen people throw stuff out of windows. Trash. For no good reason at all, just throwing it out on the ground. It is our responsibility as citizens to, if we have that opportunity to pick it up, to call the code enforcement, call the city and say there's trash everywhere. I have done it. I have called about my neighbor's grass, I've called about trash, I've called about things that make my community not look like it should. So we have to empower ourselves and each other to do the same. This is a problem not just for city government, it's a problem for each and every one of us that live in a neighborhood. Thank you.
What do you see? I think it is all of our problems, and I would like to kind of agree with Mayor. I don't think everywhere in Trotwood is a mess. I think we live in a beautiful community that from time to time has a little issue with a little litter, just like every other community. Whether you're talking about Trotwood, Oakwood, Centerville, doesn't matter. If you see trash, pick it up. 70 cents out of every dollar in Trotwood goes to the city schools. So even if they wanted to hire more staffing to handle the trash, there's the resources aren't there to be able to do it, right? And maybe the more trash you see, maybe that's a business opportunity for you to create something that goes out and picks up the litter and you can sow back into your own community. But I think it's all our responsibilities to make sure that we keep our city and municipality nice and beautiful. Thank you.
So I have 8 minutes to ask 2 questions. So we're at a 1-minute elevator speech, right? And I think both cities are run by a city manager. So our role, your role as commissioners and mayor are limited. And so the question is, what changes do you want to make for a more efficient government? As a mayor, a city commission, we run by city manager. 1 minute, because I have one more question, which is a yes/no question, okay?
The elected officials, in my opinion, create the work for the staff to do. All right, so even whether or not the city is city manager led, the city manager is the employee of the city council. The city council creates the work for the city manager to do, which means you have to have city council members that are active, that are out and engaged in creating relationships and meeting new people and fostering those relationships to bring that work back to the city manager and staff to help promote the growth in the city. And what I would do is continue to foster those relationships, go out, meet new people, get in contact with the people in Columbus, find out where the resources are, bring those resources back to Trotwood so the staff has work to do. So that's what I would do. Thank you.
It's important for elected officials to be present in their community, present in their schools, present in their neighborhoods. Because, again, we hear the citizens' concerns. We take that back to the city manager, who is the operations manager. But one thing that the council does is policy making. If we see that there is an opportunity to establish new policies or ordinance, we look at that, we bring that forward. So again, it's just important to hear what citizens have to say and let their voices be heard so that we can take that back and work on those concerns.
I'm going to ask you to ask that question again, please, because I've heard a lot going on here.
Mayor, I think the question was, both cities are run by a city manager. What would you do in your role as mayor or commission to change that structure, improve that structure?
Well, I think the onus is on the responsibility of the city council. The city council is the one who directs the city manager. The way the form of government works is you citizens elect a mayor and city council, and we hire a city manager. It is the city manager's job to take the vision that the city council puts in place and enact upon it. So what I would do, and what I continue to do, is make sure that the vision that I have for the city of Trotwood stays in front of the city manager at all times. If there's a concern that our citizens have, he knows it. I'm not going to sit on it. That is our responsibility, and holding him responsible, he makes the big buck, and that's what we hold him accountable to do, and that is carry out the wishes and the desires of the citizens who live in our city. And we're seeing that happen in record numbers in terms of the development that's happening in the city of Trotwood, the growth that's happening in the city of Trotwood, and it is directly because of leadership and the choices that we make with the relationships that we have built, not only here in the city of Trotwood, but in the state level as well.
So as I mentioned at the beginning of the forum, I did work for a member of Congress in constituent services. The other part of my job was in field representation. So part of my job was, doing town halls, round tables and things like that. And we had to listen to the community and turn that into policy. I have attended a fair share of community commission meetings, and what happens when you go speak at the Dayton Commission meeting is you get up as a citizen, a concerned citizen of the community, it goes in one ear, it goes out the other, and the commission does what the city manager has asked them to do. I don't think that is the proper structure for a city management form of government. It is the job of the city commission to set the vision, to set the plan, and it is the job of the city manager to execute. Our current city commission makeup has flipped that on its head, and so I would like to see a return to collaboration where people have to discuss what is being voted on, discuss the votes, and take it from there, and not everything be a predetermined 3-2 breakdown because the city manager has asked for that.
Thanks for that question. Yes, it is turned on its head in the city of Dayton. The city commission is supposed to be the policymakers and directs the manager to create programs for the neighborhoods. But in this situation, the city of Dayton, it's the city manager that is directing the two city commissioners and the mayor. They are rubber stamping what she is dictating to them, and the two other commissioners are just totally out of commission. They have no power at all. So I want to, as your elected city commissioner, I want to flip that around. We need to hold the city manager accountable, and the way to do so is by the city commission to get in gear, be responsible, form the policies that need to be done, and then direct the city manager.
Yes, thank you for that great question. I think Mayor McDonald laid it out very well. Our form of government is a strong city manager form, and we are the policy body. And we take that work very seriously. We go out to conferences and try to bring back the best practices that we come across and share that with the city manager and the professional staff that we hired to do the work. So it is not our role to kind of get into the weeds, into the organization. It's the city manager's job, and we hold her accountable every single day. And contrary to popular opinion, we are very engaged with our city manager, and we work collaboratively with her every single day. Today, I spent a lot of time with the assistant city managers, and we do that work regularly. We've been recognized for the kind of work that we've done with her. She's a very strong city manager, and we will continue to push and hold her accountable for doing the work that we put in front of her.
Like Commissioner Shaw said, the pastor laid it out very well. But I want to take just a second. Most people maybe don't understand where the city manager form of government came from. It happened after the flood, where reformers got a hold of the city and decided to make a change, to try to make it more transparent, to get rid of council people hiring their cousins and all sorts of bad things that were happening. And they instituted the city manager form of government to keep politics out of the running of the city. So the manager does the hiring and firing and carries out the will of the commission, the will of the council. So for us, that takes the shape of us asking the city manager to build a more just, a more welcoming, a more prosperous city. And we can talk a little more specific than that, but in general, that's it. And the city manager is a professional who hires other professionals to carry out those orders. And I think that's the way it should be. I support that form of government, especially because of the transparency and because it keeps politics out of the running of the city day to day.
Okay, I lied. I have two questions. Three, maybe three. And I feel bad for the fiscal officers. I'm going to give you 1 minute to say whatever it is on your mind that you want the audience to know about you and your desire to continue as the fiscal officer and then to be the fiscal officer. So you have 1 minute to answer that question. I know if you don't understand the NAACP parable, that's how you might be feeling.
Again, I'm Charlene Chathams, and things you may not know about me, I'm a cancer survivor, so I am a fighter. I figure out how to beat cancer twice now, and I think if I had the position of fiscal officer, I would figure out how to help the township become more positive and have more activities for our kids, because we don't have a lot out there for them now. And when I raised my kids, they had stuff out there to do. Now the kids do not have a lot, and they get in a lot of trouble. So I'm looking forward to maybe bringing up something for them to do, to have time, so they feel good about themselves. Because if you make the kids feel good about themselves, they do positive things. When there's no one guiding them, they do bad things. So I want our community to raise more money, to have more activities for our youth.
Sorry for my seat. I want everybody to know that, like I said, I've been in the township as fiscal officer for 10 years, and there was a lot to do, and I want you guys to know that I'm actually trying to get back up on top, so for the next person to come in. So I'd like whoever would like to come in, if I get this position, which when I get this position, I should say, that I want to be able to help someone who's interested to learn the position and to be able to take it on and continue to keep it up, because we were way in the hole. There was a lot of problems, and I'd like to again thank everybody for coming, listening to us.
So on the November ballot is issue 1. On the November ballot is issue 1. This is a 10-second question. Are you for it or against it? So let's say if you're for issue 1, say yes. If you're against issue 1, say no. The question's clear? Issue 1's on the ballot. Yes if you're for it, no if you're against it. Let's start on this side.
Yes, I'm for it.
That'll be a yes.
Yes.
Yes, and issue 2.
Yes. Yes.
No.
Okay. I'm a part of the Montgomery County Jail Coalition, and we began our journey maybe 5 or 6 years ago, saying to the City Commission and to cities, Trotwood and Dayton, catering all of those who send people to the county jail, whatever you do, we don't want a large jail. And the commission and the sheriff announced the other day that they will build something inside of, and I think it's called a step down, where they'll treat mental health and alcohol and treatment inside the county jail. I just want to ask you, on behalf of the citizens, to hold the commission, county commission, hold the sheriff to that goal, to build something. Actually, a standalone facility would be expected, but if we can't go that route, a jail that the citizens of this community, because we've met with citizens 2 or 3 times, they want a jail. They want a facility that meets the mental health and alcohol and drug treatment of the people who go there. Many of them are awaiting trial. Many of them are on probation, violation, and ready to go elsewhere. But we don't need to have a large facility and put people behind bars when they really need to be treated with mental health and alcohol and drug addiction. I want to say that to you because all of you send inmates to the jail. And I would like for the commissioners, Dayton, Trotwood, and all of us, Harrison as well, to pay a little more attention to who we're sending to the county jail, but we treat them. We treat them in a humane way. I wish I could have put a question to that, but as being a member of that jail coalition, we're going to address the commission tomorrow, but you send people there as commissioners in city council. We may ask for another program, a way like Cleveland and others, a way to keep people from going to the county jail that really need to be treated in a facility, okay? Mr. President, I think we've exhausted our time for tonight, and that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. So we have one other question that's been brought to my attention, and I'd like to just get this answered from each person. So I guess the question number 1 would be, and this is really going to only pertain to individuals who has children that has went to school in Dayton or Trotwood or Jefferson or in Montgomery County. So if you had a child that grew up in the community in which you serve, just raise your hand for a second. Okay, so, okay, so that's everybody, okay, good. Okay, so the question is, for each person, I'll start up here, is in where you went to school at, or where you're trying to serve, Jefferson Township, for instance, then we have Trotwood, and then we have Dayton. So, so the question is posed, where did your child go to school? That's the question. Either graduated from, if they've already graduated, and or if they haven't graduated, where are they currently attending? I guess that's the way the question was framed to me.
My children graduated from Chaminade Junior.
Both of my children graduated from Jefferson.
Okay, so up here we have two people that's in Jefferson. One of their children graduated from Chaminade, and the other one from Jefferson. Here we go. And this is now. Next three is Trotwood.
All three of my children attend Trotwood Madison.
All four of my children have attended Trotwood Madison City Schools, and 3 of those 4 have graduated from Trotwood Madison City Schools.
I have 2 children. One graduated from Trotwood Madison and one graduated from CJ.
I graduated from Trotwood Madison, and I have 2 children who are currently at Roosevelt Elementary.
My grandniece is in Carroll High School. She started in a private school, and she's continuing in that order. Okay, she's in Carroll High School.
Carroll High School.
My daughter graduated from the Miami Valley School, and she's about to graduate from Tennessee State University. Thank God.
My kids are going to Catholic school. One is at Ascension, and the other was at Carroll High School also.
So hopefully for the person who asked me to ask that question, hopefully I asked the question correctly. But I think I did. So, so with that, let's give it up for all of the candidates who took time out of their schedule to be with us this evening. And let's give it up for our political action chair, Tom Roberts, for putting together the panel. And then as a reminder, next week, next Wednesday, October the 4th, in the same auditorium, we're going to hear from the school board members of Dayton Public, or the school board candidates for Dayton Public, for Trotwood, and for Jefferson Township. So they will be right here inside of this room next Wednesday at 6:00 p.m. So it's not, so don't get your clocks and think it's going to be 6:45. It's going to be 6:00 p.m. This has to be a special meeting. So with that, next month, if you're interested in coming next month to our regular scheduled general membership meeting, the topic is going to be on housing, and we're going to have Carl Keith here to talk about reevaluation process. So if you want to know about your housing situation in terms of why your housing or why the value of your house increased, or the taxes on your house increased and or decreased, depending upon the situation. Come next month and you'll be able to get some of those questions answered. So until the next time, may God bless you, may God bless the NAACP, and may God bless the United States of America.